23,060 or so. Tushar Pradhan is with us, director at HXGON Partners. Tushar, good afternoon. Good to have you with us here. I hope I got that pronunciation right. Just a quick view on things. There's no stopping this market. And, 0.5%, 100 points. Globally, things are looking a little more quieter. We were a little quiet early August and maybe a little after that as well. But I don't know if we've got a trend on the upside once again. What's your sense? Could we see a sustained move higher, or you think only once we have, the Fed decision around the 18th of September, will global markets really give a real sense of which way we're headed?
Yeah, I think there has been a lot of strength in our markets, and that's something which is known for a while now. While there may be some bouts of, I would say, stability or maybe even slightly negative in the interim, I think the fact remains that you have tremendous macro tailwinds, ensuring that, you're not going to really get, big shock to your market at any point of time. And as you mentioned, I think if there is something to do with the Federal Reserve and the decisions there, I think there might be a little bit bigger surprise in November, which I think most of the markets may be unprepared for. So if you're really looking at a risk, I think beyond the Fed move, I think the November election in the US is going to be a very significant direction to where markets will go in the interim, because these are two very distinct doctrines in terms of where the economy in the US is likely to go. And as you know, where the US economy goes, the world follows. So it's going to be a very stark change if there is a very dramatic, outcome in the US, whichever it is. And I think that is something to really be a little wary of. But I think currently, I don't think there is anything in the Indian markets to dislodge it from the strength. You've got tremendous domestic liquidity. You've got slightly increased interest from the foreigners. You've got tremendous corporate earnings as well as growth coming through the economy. So really nothing to worry about from that perspective.
Well, tremendous domestic liquidity. You said it, nearly 23,500 crores in terms of SIP for the previous month. The data just came by, and while the street was worried about mid caps and small caps, so the money is going into large caps. Yes, the money did go into large caps, close to 2,600 crores, but it also went into mid caps and small caps, close to 3,000, 4,000 crores each in both those funds. If I remember correctly, Tushar, you've been a proponent of low-ticket rural consumption names. Over the last few trading sessions, in fact, last few weeks, the FMCG sector has come on its own. Rural's doing, well. The expectation is that post-monsoon, ahead of festive season, things are likely to look up after what was a long-drawn summer, or rather winter, for this sector. What are your thoughts here? Is there any name in particular that you like?
Well, I wouldn't like to name any names, but as I said, the general concept is that rural demand has been very weak throughout the last year. And that has been, really seen in the fact that fertilizer consumption, cement, all of the industries which actually took benefit out of domestic rural demand were really suffering throughout probably most of last year. Now, what has changed is that we've got an above average monsoon. If you look at the reservoirs in India, I think they're at maybe 104 or 105%, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of the total reservoir reserve strength now that we have. And that makes for a very, very good Rabi season, which means that potentially the winter crop is going to be bumper, in addition to whatever you may have as a Kharif season coming through the harvest even now. Now, that really spells for the fact that there is a tremendous amount of latent demand, which was not satisfied last year, which is likely to follow through. And I think that it's a good, really portent of things to happen, because it really lifts a lot of sentiment across a very broad spectrum of the population. So it is not only urban-centric that we are looking at demand, but we are actually now at the cusp of possibly having a very, very sustained across-the-board recovery in the economy. And that will, of course, lead to very significant GDP growth as we add that up towards the end of the year. So I think rural demand is likely to be very key to sustain market activity, because then it will now float to companies which actually serve that. And it's up to you to find out, some of the companies which are actually out there, which are at the forefront of such consumption.
Consumption of another kind, right? Global Spirits is up 14%. Stocks are about 1243. And look at like something like Tilaknagar Industries, 7%, 7.5% higher. That's been a big mover actually last few weeks.
We had Tilaknagar Industries on our channel yesterday. In fact, they did say that the new liquor policy that would come by in Andhra Pradesh would help increase their volumes on a compounded basis of close to 8 to 10% over the next 3-4 years. And their new business, which is flavored brandy, they call it Flandy, that has done extremely well. Just one launch and it's about 10% of the mother brand. So all these factors are playing out for them, and they are obviously turning debt-free this year.
So 7 to 8% incremental on top of what they were already
CAGR,
doing.
yeah,
Just because of Andhra.
Just because of Andhra. So basically 85% of their revenues come in from South India, nearly 30% comes in from Andhra. They were looking at the delta between Andhra and Telangana. Andhra volumes have been largely flattish over the last few years, and Telangana, because of this excise policy, has compounded at around 10 to 12%.
I see.
So if you look at Andhra's base, then maybe it's not out of whack to assume 8 to 10% compounding if the new policy is in place. Of course, all of this is subject to the new policy coming into place with effect from October 1st.
But it is coming into place.
That's what.
Of October.
That's what.
Or is there a?
I mean, it is a when, but we don't know until it's done, right? That's policy.
Okay. But because these things would be notified. I mean, there'd be a starting date, implementation date effective. But we don't
have anything official. We don't have anything official yet.
All right. So expectations at this point in time. But yeah, I mean, this is a really nice large move that we're seeing. Stocks up, I think, about 35-40% for the year so far. And this month is turning out to be pretty good as well. Tushar, do you track any of these companies, alcohol companies?
Not particularly, but I think there is a tremendous demographic dividend that I think we should look at from looking at these companies as well. Though I'm not particularly interested in them as such, but I think one of the things that India will clearly graduate to is increased penetration of consumption which are income related. So I think most of the bottom of the pyramid kind of stories are already covered. But I think what we are really looking at is premiumization. So within that pack, I think what I would be interested would be, how much of that is really impacting the higher end. And because the higher end has not really been penetrated as much, there may be reasons to believe that there might be some more interesting longer term trends which are coming out in that field. When it comes to some of the more basic liquor products, I think that's something of a story which is normally not that exciting from my perspective.
All right, take that point. Always a pleasure speaking with you, Tushar. Short, but a very